can you believe we've been doing this for over 3 years now?
That long?
Yeah. Started in January of 2020, man.
Back when MTV had music videos.
No, they'd long since been gone.
Oh, yeah. No, I remember. I remember it like it was yesterday.
What's going on?
Oh, don't worry. It always does this when I think about the past. Thanks, Davey. This is really cool.
No problem, man.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Hey, you got it.
Thanks. Thank you guys so much. Thank you guys. Thank you. I hope these reviews don't get like intense or scary or anything. I tend to freak out when it gets to be scary time.
No problem. They're just friendly, good old-fashioned movies.
I got an enema bag. God, we were young back then. And it's amazing how your apartment then looks nothing like your apartment now. You know, I still have the enema bag.
Not happening.
Do you like fun and adventure? Then sit back and enjoy the Brothers Not Lovers as they discuss all things movies. What's overrated or underrated? What makes you go really? Or how dare you? Or even just simply how funny this movie can be. You have the insightful, intuitive Davey, who is awesome. And you have the film bestie, Josh. He's there.
Hi, Davey. I'm awesome.
And I'm almost out of beer.
This is Josh, the film bestie.
No, dude, I'm the film bestie. Yeah, you could be called awesome at times, but I'm definitely awesome, but I'm almost out of beer.
And this is, really? Where we notice things in movies and TV and can't help but look at it and go, really?
Yeah. Like, I mean, come on. He fights Apollo Creed once, loses, he fights him again, he wins. Whatever.
No, definitely not that. For our first really, film bestie, take it away.
Oh, right. Right. I gotcha.
I would hope so. It wasn't like I was being subtle.
You're about as subtle as a cockroach on a cake. For the first really. What was the name of that movie? It wasn't a movie at all. But it was. But not a scene. Just a movie within a movie, a thing about a movie. What am I talking about?
I have no clue.
Titanic! Thanks, man. My really is the fact that they re-released that movie in like, what, 2015, 2020, I don't know, between 2013 and 2020. They re-released it in select theaters under 3D.
What?
Yeah. So when you were sitting in the audience and he was drawing rows, they came right out at you. It was magical. But that was the only part that was good.
That does sound horrifying. Like, of all the things I would want to see in 3D, people drowning and suffering is not really it.
I was thinking about, Billy Zane. That's too much. It's too much nose for me. The whole face coming at you. It's scary. I mean, he's so handsome on screen, but you don't want him in your face. But I mean, seriously, what's up with that? You know what? I got an idea. Next time, let's re-release Schindler's List with scratch and sniffs.
Kind of experienced that. My wife had this one friend.
Smelled like the Holocaust, huh?
Worse. Yeah. But seriously, yeah, I kind of get you there. Really? Why would you re-release Titanic of all movies in 3D?
Or let's re-release Steel Magnolias with those motion theater chairs. Yeah, that's exciting. We'll all cry with her because the chair is shaking.
Okay. But yes, okay, if we're going to release movies in 3D again, we need to be a little bit more selective. Like a 3D movie, put The Last Starfighter in 3D.
I have the perfect movie in 3D.
Huh.
Showgirls. With scratch and sniffs, too.
Gross. You are so disgusting.
Scratch and sniffs, 3D,
You're
motion chairs.
You're done. You're done. Titanic. Yeah, really? You put that in 3D. You're done. You're
Make
done.
this happen.
You're done. For my really, I'm gonna have to take you back to the year 2000.
Wow, that was a long time ago.
23 years ago at this point. If you were born in 2000, you're now an adult.
Dude,
Josh.
if it's the year 2000, wouldn't that have been 3 years ago during COVID? Learn math, dude. It's going to be the year 3000 in just 70-something years.
Good Lord, okay. But yes, to a movie that, let me clarify, I do love. I love this movie because it was thanks to this movie that Hollywood started taking comic book movies seriously, and we got some really great comic book movies out of it. That movie, The X-Men.
Love X-Men.
Me too. I love the movie. Launched the career of Hugh Jackman. Helped make Anna Paquin a household name. Heck, when that movie came out, even Ian McKellen wasn't really a household name.
Oh, we're thinking about different movies. I was thinking about the one with...
You're done. Even Ian McKellen wasn't a household name yet. His acting status, he was that guy from that movie. Like, you'd recognize him from somewhere, but you'd be like, oh, that's the guy from Apt Pupil or something.
Dude, that guy was in that?
As great as that movie was, as much as it helped get us to the kind of superhero movies we could be proud of, because let's face it, before that, unless you were Batman or Superman, your movie probably sucked. I.e. Captain America.
Yeah, man, it's been about 5 years since we've had a movie to be proud of.
Fair enough. Well, I don't know. I saw Shazam! Fury of the Gods. That was pretty good. But, you know, before that, it was like that 90s version of Captain America, the made-for-TV movies like the Thor and Hulk one, The Punisher with Dolph Lundgren. They didn't take superhero movies seriously. Hollywood realized there's money to be made off of catering to nerds. And us nerds were looking at them going, yeah, duh. Have you not noticed we spend all our money on worthless crap? There's one part of that movie that since the moment it came out annoys the crap out of me. And that is, towards the end of the movie, the X-Men are fighting against Toad. He threw Storm into an elevator and she went down the shaft. He spit some crystallizing goo in Jean Grey's face. He was basically running roughshod over them. Until the epic moment when Storm comes up out of the elevator shaft, flying through the air, lightning, thunder all around her, and she looks right at Toad and says, "Do you know what happens to a toad once it's struck by lightning?" Dramatic pause.
What happens?
The same thing as everything else. Oh. That is the worst one-liner I've ever heard in any freaking movie. Like, really? That is the best you could come up with?
Yeah.
The same thing as everything else? Then why say it? That was such a no-duh moment. And it gets me, like, were you down in that elevator shaft thinking about something cool to say before you came back up?
But to be fair, do you know what happens to a reviewer who criticizes a movie? The same thing that happens to every critic who reviews a movie.
Do you know what happens to Cheerios when you put them in a bowl of milk and leave them for sitting too long? The same thing that happens to a bowl of rice chicks.
Do you know what happens to a man who swallows a banana whole? The same thing that happens to anybody who swallows something phallic whole. Do you know what happens to a bestie who is rejected by a woman? Same thing that always happens. They keep rejecting me, dude.
But no, in all seriousness, like, I get this image, like, was Storm down in that elevator shaft trying to come up with the perfect thing to say when she went up there, and that's what she settled on? No, it makes me think of, like, Boondock Saints 2, Romeo down there, like, who ordered the kick-ass fajitas? You know, was that her down there? Well, instead of thinking of stupid one-liners, maybe you should have been working on your bad African accent that you finally dropped in the third movie, which I think is because Professor Xavier did something to your brain to make you stop talking that way because it was annoying him too. Like, for crying out loud. As if her bad accent wasn't enough, that line, it was further proof that she was only in the movie because they needed a couple of names and Danny DeVito dropped out. That's not a joke. He was supposed to play Wolverine.
Danny DeVito?
Yes, that was their first choice to play Wolverine. Because he was short and they wanted a name actor. Honestly, that would have been awesome.
Yeah, Danny's pudgy little body going around. That Statue of Liberty thing with the claws.
But to be fair to Halle Berry, I get she didn't come up with the line, she just repeated it. But that gets me even more. Because these are people who are script writers. That is your job, is to write scripts. And I've written scripts before, so I know what goes into it. You're sitting there and you're doubting yourself and you're like, is this good? Is that good? Is this...
Okay,
I can't do this. And then they're sitting there like, perfect.
I know what happened.
Huh.
The guy was writing, she came in. Oh, what's my line for this? And he's like, oh, I was just...
That would explain it because
down.
what...
You said my name.
That
No,
would
I didn't.
Yeah, that would explain it. Because ultimately, that's the best you could come up with. Was what happens to a toad when it's struck by lightning the same thing as everything else? Especially because off the top of my head, I could come up with a better line than that. What happens to a toad when it's struck by lightning? Let's find out. Maybe not the best line ever, but you know what? It's better than that. But it gets to me not only the creative process of them breaking it down to coming up with that line of all lines, but then even the director sees it and goes, yeah, we'll go with that. What the hell was wrong with you?
You know what my biggest question about that scene is? If anybody licks Toad, do they get high?
What were they hoping for with that line? Like, people were going to be in the theater like, suck it, Arnold!
Halle Berry's I'll Be Back did not work out.
Not at all. What happens to a toad when it's struck by lightning? The same thing as everything else. What didn't make the cut? I gotta wonder. You know what happens to a toad when it's struck by lightning? Snap, crackle, pop.
You know what happens to a toad when it's struck by lightning? I like to move it, move it. I like to move it.
You know what happens to a toad when it's struck by lightning? Uh-huh.
You know what happens to a toad when it's struck by lightning? It gets cast in a Twilight film.
You know what happens to a toad when it's struck by lightning? Yittity!
You know what happens to a toad when it's struck by lightning? It gets ugly, fast, and it does stuff.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but what did they come up with that was worse than that?
Everything we came up with.
Honestly, I don't think anything we came up with was worse.
I got worse. You know what happens to a toad when it's struck by lightning? Exxon Valdez. Wait, one more. You know what happens to a toad that's struck by lightning? Free Willy 3. Bad sequels.
There you have it. Don't release tragic historical movies in 3D. And for God's sakes, if you ain't got a good line, then just shut up. That's our, really. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and if you did, make sure to hit like, hit subscribe, hit the little bell so you get notifications when we post new videos, and leave a comment. Tell me about some things that make you go, really? Love you guys.